A tale of two teams. One young and up and coming, after fighting through years and years of a rebuild, finally reaching a point of contention. A young core and a superstar in the making. Now we must wonder, can this team prove themselves legitimate? The other, a team that has, for a lot of people, the uncontested best in the world. And with him on that squad, they have a chance on any given night. And now this team is trying to etch one last championship run in before it might be decades that they can get another shot. So today, we discuss Game 5, a game that might determine the fate of the entire series. And we look into what both teams can do to try and capitalize. But first, we need to talk about that young and up-and-coming team and what they need to do and to make sure that the series is in their control. And the first thing this Oklahoma City team has to do is ensure that their superstar caliber player in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander can hoop. This is a beautiful play here, and just to look back at it again, Shai gets the downhill drive, gets his shoulder into Christian Braun, who has given him consistent problems throughout this series, and gets the fadeaway midi. Now, obviously, is that always the best shot to settle for? No. But for SGA, that's something better than most. They run a great job here at the pick action, making sure that Nikola Jokic is the one to try and pick up. You see Christian Braun trying to stay at the level, so in case SGA tries to drive this way, but instead he's got Murray and Joker on him and pulls up for the tough midi. And we need to talk about how SGA's shot needs to get more consistent, or he just needs to find better reads. So for example, MPJ stays on him here. You see how they are running a zone at first, right? You got a 2-3-ish zone, but Braun comes over, right? So he effectively is closing off SGA's cutting lane. So now he's forced to pick up his dribble and try and settle for some tough middies that obviously I think look out of rhythm, right? He doesn't really dribble. He goes, I don't really got a choice, even though you do have Lou Dort there. The way that they have handled SGA has been extremely effective. But I think if SGA is the superstar caliber player that we think he is, he needs to adjust. He needs to step up as a playmaker, right? Again, Braun is there. Jokic comes over at the level. Notice how often, even though they start off in a zone, right? Just look. They'll come up. Jokic immediately and MPJ immediately are ready to slide over to whichever direction SGA goes to drive in, effectively taking away his driving lane and taking away the paint. Now that is then up to SGA to adjust and try and get something else off. So for example, in this case, you should just kick it out to Jalen Williams. Right there, right behind you, right? But again, SGA settles, goes for the shot, and gets it out of bounds, and is called off of him, right? Again, does a good job there going for the mismatch, but I think just in general, the grifting and the settling and trying to go for fouls, I think it's going to hurt him. He needs to just play physical, play through the contact, and I think that this team will find a way to come through. But of course, this series isn't just about OKC and its offense. It also needs to be discussed about how critical their defense has been. I cannot believe I'm going to say this, but the Oklahoma City Thunder defense has found a way to make Nikola Jokic ineffective. Just look at the most recent 3-game sample size from this playoff series. They have found a way to make Nikola Jokic struggle. Whether it's turning the ball over, being ineffective in terms of his efficiencies, I think that Nikola Jokic has really found a tough match in OKC, and we have to look into why. So just take a look. Caruso comes right behind Jokic, right, who is obviously trying to gather up into a pass, right, slows it down, gets ready, gets poked right out, and at that point, right, he's already all the way down the court, and OKC has the advantage. Again, Hartenstein does a great job of waiting, and I think what they've done really well in OKC too is cutting off the anticipatory, passing lanes. It's obvious at that point he's trying to go for someone like Braun, and Cason Wallace does a beautiful job stealing it and to get it to Dort, who goes down the lane. Again, all important because of the defense that is being played. Jalen Williams has done a very good job on Jokic, does a good job, gets the ball back, just sits back on him, waits. Jokic tries to go in, goes straight up, and I think in general they have frustrated Nikola Jokic, which I think is important because when Jokic plays frustrated, he's more prone to make mistakes. He's more prone to not be as consistent of the offensive engine as we have talked about him to be. Again, this is just a great play there by J-Dub, and then you get him on the double dribble, right? He tries to come over. So then at that point, right, J-Dub comes over to snatch it. At that point, you get the double dribble, and Jokic gets another turnover. Again, I think what's really important too is they found a way to cut off Jokic when he tries to go downhill. Just take a look here. He gets the ball from Aaron Gordon. He tries to drive his shoulder down. He loses his, look where his eyes go. He looks down to the floor. At multiple points throughout multiple games in this series, a second defender immediately will come over to poke the ball out from Jokic, and the transition opportunity can be created. I think it's extremely important to notice that, because now Oklahoma City has found tendency to take advantage of Nikola Jokic. So I think at the end of the day, this defense has made Nikola Jokic's life a living hell. And I think that if they can maintain that pressure, that it will continue to fatigue Nikola, and this team can win this series and will probably win in a dominant fashion in Game 5. However, there's still another side to the coin. There still is, what can the Denver Nuggets do to steal Game 5 and possibly close this out in 6? Of course, the first thing we're going to talk about is Nikola Jokic and what he can do to be better and to help will this team in, because quite frankly, they have been winning in spite of Jokic these last 3 games. If Jokic is able to play at even a mediocre level from himself for his own standards, I think this team would be a lot better. So what can the Jokic do? I think the biggest thing is they gotta have someone else bring up the ball and let him get ahead of steam and go downhill, because the way that Jokic has been attacking is more slow pace, slowing things down, and that helps out a team like OKC, right? They're able to try and bring over a double, right? And again, shots like this are good, but the problem is he can only do those so consistently when he's in a rhythm, right? He's not going to be able to do that necessarily just off the rip at the beginning of a game. Again, some of these shots you're seeing, they're going to fall, right? Again, this is for a lot of people the undisputed best player in the world. But again, he can get ahead of steam and go downhill, and just look at how unstoppable this is. Catches the ball, spins past Chet, just goes right up, gets it back, gets the offensive glass, right? Like, what more can you do? Right now, he's bringing the ball up, right? He tries to go downhill, but they slow him down. They make it tough. And even then, you're getting some easy lays. But this is also from Jokic's best game in the series. It's hard to completely discredit the last 3 games we've seen, but will Jokic play that bad? I'm not sure. But is he going to give you 40 and 20 again? Now, that's also fair, because I'm not sure if he's going to do that either. Jokic just needs to stay aggressive. I understand he's taking some shots, cut down on the threes, and if he can do that, this team has a real shot at it. Just like for the Oklahoma City Thunder, this defense has been just as, and in this case for the Nuggets, even more important than the offense. This Nuggets defense has stepped up in ways I never imagined. Christian Braun, congratulations, you want to just earn yourself a major payday. The defensive effort he has given in these 2 series have been remarkable. Let's just take a look, right? So they go for the double. They got Christian Braun, who's doing a really good job of playing tight on Shea, but notice, again, they look like they're running a 2-3 zone. But then Aaron Gordon comes over to the level, right? Gets to the line and forces the uncomfortable look. And then SGA tries to grift and get a foul and go downhill, but there's nothing he can do. Then, right, you're forcing, because for whatever reason, I'm not sure, right? But Denver had made SGA so uncomfortable that he just went for a 3 instead of driving. The rim is literally yours. Aaron Gordon's not quite close to you. And if he's not, you could give it to J-Dub, who is red hot. But instead, he settled, which is important because Denver's defense is forcing a MVP caliber player, someone who's having one of the best guard seasons we've seen, be uncomfortable. And when he's uncomfortable, this offense gets very stagnant. And again, just notice how Christian Braun moves here. Because I understand, right, like Jamal's the one guarding him, and that's well and good. But just notice, right? They go with the switch. Chet goes for the roll. And he starts and stops. And then the second he realizes SGA settles, Christian Braun's able to move. Basically, they're always going to have a man at the nail or at the level, so that way, SGA, if he tries to drive, there's someone else cutting him off. The way that they have forced SGA to be a jump shooter is extremely important because he's become a 3-point jump shot shooter. Again, Braun does a great job. Notice Aaron Gordon starting to hover over. Jokic is staying at the level, right? They're ignoring Holmgren. So now you're getting an uncomfortable 3 or uncomfortable midi again. And this defense has taken a all-star, superstar, MVP caliber player, and has heavily reduced him and then his supporting cast offense to a slow, barely any passes, half-court offense, which will help a poor overall defensive team like Denver continue to look and change the perception of themselves and look like a legitimate defensive stop. After looking at the struggles of both MVP caliber players and the overall team defenses and how they've adjusted to those MVP caliber players, it's become more and more apparent Game 5 determines everything. If OKC wins Game 5, I think this series is over no matter what. Because even if Denver tries and win Game 6, you know it's going to take a lot out of them, and they're going to be gassed in that Game 7, and role players are better at home. If you're Denver and you steal Game 5, I think this series is over in 6 because I don't think they're letting that series go back to Oklahoma City. So if you are one of those two teams, you need to make sure that that MVP caliber player can get it going and get it going early. And if you can shut the book on this series, the finals and the championship may very well be yours. So as always, guys, this was Mr. No Soups. Appreciate all the love you guys have been showing the most recent videos, man. I've been really trying to put in that extra effort to really dial up the content. So let me know what you guys think down below. As always, this was Mr. No Soups. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Have a beautiful rest of your day, guys. Peace out.